I'm Ed Stiles with the Alberta Sport Development Centre. I'm the certified exercise physiologist, strength and conditioning coach with our young athletes. I'm here to talk to you today about posture. Far too often in our society we see young athletes coming to us with terrible mechanics, and because of that they're predisposed to injuries. We see it all too often. So what I'd like to offer today is some tips for coaches and physical educators to be able to identify problem areas, and then some simple fixes for same. First off is a head forward posture. We see this far too often. When you look at an athlete from the side, you'll see their ears significantly past their shoulder joint. And so this alignment really needs to be ear over the shoulder joint. It will feel very awkward to most of our athletes because they haven't been there. They've been texting, they've been sitting in desks at school. The weight of the cranium gets amplified for every inch forward that this happens. So a 10-pound head will weigh 20 pounds, 2 inches forward, it'll weigh 30 pounds, 30 inches forward. So obviously that puts a lot of stress to the upper back and neck. So that's the first thing you need to see is athletes, pull your heads back, get them upright. They'll see it in planks, they'll let their heads drop. Push-ups, they'll put their heads drop. So whether they're standing or whether they're exercising, we need to have those heads in line. The other thing that we see a lot is rolled forward shoulder posture, where the shoulders are here. If you're walking towards me and I can see your knuckles, that tells me right away that your shoulder joint isn't aligned properly. It's basically rounded forward. That's going to predispose the rotator cuff to issues. And because that shoulder joint isn't proper, it actually stems from the thoracic spine. So that upper back has too much hunch in it, again predisposing all kinds of issues with the upper back. So the reality is, I often have athletes do what we call a feed flush position. So we take them from a fully rounded position to a fully extended position, and we repeat. We go through that a couple times so they can kind of feel where both ends is, and then I have them just sit in the middle. And the middle is what we call neutral spine. Injury doesn't happen in neutral spine. That's why it's taught in back schools. So the reality is that we can get athletes working from this position, ears in line with the shoulders, shoulders not hunched, shoulders not extended too far. We've got them working properly through the upper body at least. The other area that we see a lot of issues with is the lumbar spine. 80% of us at some point will suffer some kind of back pain. And so it's important to set young people up right away with healthy lower backs. Because they're seated all day, because we do a lot of work through the abs with young athletes, we often end up predisposing them to low back arch, where that lower back will tend to arch too much, the bum will stick out behind them, they'll lock their knees. This position I see far too often, and it's very detrimental to lumbar spines and strength. Core strength won't happen if they're in this position. So, very important fundamental movement they need to be able to master is what we call a pelvic tilt. And so what I have athletes do is they place their hands on their hips, they soften their knees a little bit, and I just try to engage their glutes and their abdominals, tell them to sort of think of tucking their tushy underneath them. So the hands are on the hips, they can feel their hips moving as they pull up with the abs and push under with the glutes. And of course they'll joke and giggle, and that's okay. But if they can think of just flattening their spine a little bit and then arching their back out behind them, I take them through a full range of motion both ways, and then I have them find the middle. And that middle again is neutral. The lumbar spine is protecting that position. It's going to be held up by the abdominal muscles and the glute muscles. We're not going to have injury there. Far too often I see athletes in planks with their backs really arched or their bums way up in the air. Reality is we need to be halfway between there, and that sets us up for a really strong core. So, 3 basic posture tips today. Number 1, keep that head in line. Number 2, keep those shoulders in neutral. And number 3, keep that pelvis in neutral. The amount of times that I remind athletes of this, hour after hour after hour every day, it has to be reinforced on a regular basis. It has to be reinforced in schools, in cars, every time the phone rings, because it's just far too easy to hang off the ligaments. You can do something about it by helping educate them. Let's do this together. Let's get these athletes working better and working stronger. Thanks for listening.